Hi, I'm LJ and welcome to my channel. I
Hi,
packed up my
LJ.
things to head west last week and I got to New Mexico and I lost everything, unfortunately. We stopped because it was raining bad and we stayed overnight at a Walmart and our batteries ran down. All the batteries ran down because I was running the air all night, but my power ran down and I got out to go into Walmart and unfortunately all hell broke loose. The thing for me, I apologize, I'm ranting because my mind is still blown. The thing for me is I feel like I went against my intuition. I feel like I went against my gut. I love California. I love the West Coast. And there was a time when I would go to the West Coast every single year. That's just where I did my vacation at. Well, I haven't been to the West Coast for the last 2 years because the previous 3 years prior to that, every time I went to the West Coast, it ended in some type of tragedy that made me leave the West Coast. The tragedy didn't have anything to do with me, but it was a tragedy. And I'm just gonna give you guys a little back history on some of the incidents that occurred. I am extremely intuitive, highly intuitive, and my gut told me this time don't do it, but I did it anyway. I The first instant when I went to my son and I was at the West Coast and we had stopped by, and this was about 3, maybe 4 years back, maybe 4.
All right, so she's obviously going to take her time to get through this. We'll listen to more what she has to say in a moment. But two things stand out to me mainly. Firstly, I thought this was going to be, maybe she actually may go on to say it's actually worse than I thought, but I picked up on the fact that she said we. So whenever you're in a difficult situation, she's titled this video, I'm 54, living in a van, I've lost everything basically. So she says we, so she's not alone. And that's great because whenever you're in a negative situation, you always want to look at the positives. Most people, when they find themselves in a negative position, they just focus on the negative position, and that's what causes them to stay in those negative positions typically for longer than necessary. So she should focus on the fact that she's not alone. There's people who are in situations and there's no one around, or at least they feel like there's no one in their close proximity. She has family, or at least she has some sort of family or friends that are with her, which obviously is going to make whatever's going on for her much more bearable. The other thing which stood out to me is the fact she said multiple times, she's like, look, I had this feeling, I had this thought process, and I went against it. Now, when she said it at first, I was like, okay, but the last time she said it, I just started thinking to myself, well, look, we all find ourselves in situations in life where we know the wise thing to do, we know the right thing to do, but we end up doing the wrong thing. We end up doing the foolish thing. And what I'm going to say is, right, you may not be expecting this, but it's okay in the sense that whether you're 54 and you're living in a van and you feel like you've lost everything, however true that is, you still have time. And I love to say, well, look, as long as you have air in your lungs to breathe, you still have time. You still have time to change. God can transform one day in your life so you can do so much more than you've done in your previous life. Check out Samson, right? Judges chapter 13. Powerful scenario. When you read through his story anyway, he did more in his last day of life than he did his whole life combined. That's the sort of God that we serve, and that's the sort of God we believe in. So it's always important for us to remember that it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter what direction you've gone, you still have the opportunity to turn things around. So let's just say she has lost everything and she's really wondering, like, well, what's she going to do, her and her family? There's still time. You still have time to change it. It starts with obviously you believing it. So you see how I'm talking about, well, God can do this, and I'm giving examples from the Bible. This is what you need to do. That's how faith is created. You hear certain things which give you a belief, and that belief is going to empower you to take certain actions. So when I find myself in difficult situations, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm still breathing. And because I'm realizing I'm still breathing, I realize, okay, I've still got time. Because I realized, you know what, today is still a day. I realized that if he wanted to, God could actually make me do so much more today than any other day. So this is why even your last day on earth is valuable when you think from this perspective. But again, notice how I said earlier on, going back to like just negativity, if you think and breed negativity, it's going to produce more negativity. So think about someone planting negative seeds in the ground. What tree is going to sprout out? A negative tree, which is going to produce negative fruits. But if you are planting positive, wise seeds in the ground, it's going to produce a wise, positive tree, which is going to produce wise, positive fruits. So really, so far, this is about mindset, right? You have to get your mindset in the right place, and it doesn't matter where you are, especially when you're in a negative situation. We've all been there. We all may go through different situations in the future, which will be negative, which will be hard, which will be difficult. The way in which you get out of those is by thinking about things positively, believing positively, based on things God says in His Word, and that will ultimately bring about the best results possible. Let's keep going and see what she has to say.
Probably about 4 or 5 years back, we went and I loved Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles by the airport. So we had stopped at the Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles by the airport, my son and I. And my husband and I had been in that place so many times, and that is one of the ones that they are extremely fast, they're thorough, they take care of you. Well, this particular instance that we went in there, they were kind of lagging around, and they hadn't even came to our table. We had been sitting there for about 15 minutes, which was completely unlike them. And I told my son, let's go. Something in my gut said, leave. So I told my son, I said, let's go, let's leave. So we got up and we left. And when I tell you, we were not even 20 minutes from that place. He looked on his phone and he said, that rapper, I don't know if his name is PNB Rock, some rapper. Some of you guys may know, I don't watch rap. I just remember the rapper, I think it was PNB Rock, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. But the rapper that got unalived in Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, it literally happened 20 minutes after we walked out. So that shook me to a whole different level, because if we had to sit there, then we would have got caught literally in the mix of that. And that kind of made me buy a plane ticket then and leave California like that night. We got out of there that night because that really kind of shook me up. I had recently lost my husband like a year before that to unalive, and so that really threw me for a loop when that happened. Well, right after that, the following year, me and Ori, it was me and Ori and I went, and we was camping out. I was not recording my van life. We went in the van, we was staying on Santa Monica Beach, and we stayed there for like 3 weeks. Well, the way Santa Monica Beach is set up, like there are cars that can park, you can park on the side of the road. Cars were parked on the side of the road by the shoulder to the ocean, and vans and RVs were parked on the side of the road, but they were parked on the side of the road on the shoulder to a parking lot. You couldn't get in the parking lot because they locked the parking lot, but you could park on the side of the road and camp out overnight. And right above that, right in front of us, there were cars, but they were parked right by the ocean. And I laid down and something told me, it's like I was dreaming it, that it was an accident. And I woke up, and when I woke up, there was a drunk driver that ran the red light and hit the car directly in front of me, and the car was going over into the ocean when I raised up in the back of the van, and nobody survived that. So that was, oh my God, and it was only Ori and I. He was little then, and I got out of California at that time. Well, the third time I went, it was my daughter and I and my grandson and Ori, and we were leaving out of Palm Springs going into California, and we saw an accident at that time, and nobody made it through. So I have kind of been really reluctant to go to California, even though I love it on the West Coast. And I went against my intuition this time, and I headed west. Well, when I got to, and I made a video, and let you guys know that I was going to be checking in regular to let you guys know where we was at and what was going on with us. And the reason I did not check in, because I'm just like, what the world is going on with me?
All right, so before she tells us what madness happened in her life, right, she's already told us two examples, two serious situations which she's experienced with her family. And the reason I was chuckling is because we've all been there, right? We've all been in those situations where we don't learn the lesson. The message is screaming us right in the face, and we're still just like, I'm going to go down this pathway. And you know, they say, well, life is like levels on a game. If you don't beat the final boss on every single lesson, you have to go back to the beginning. And that's very much what I think about when she's saying what she's saying, because it applies to everything in life. Basically, you want to talk about making money, you want to talk about running a business, you want to talk about managing your finances, marriage, parenting, friendships, whatever it is. If you don't learn the lessons which are necessary in order to ascend, to elevate, to level up, you're going to go back down and you're going to have to take the class again, right? It's a vital lesson. So I'll give you an example, right? So I'm not surprised she's about to say what happened and it was something negative, because if you keep putting yourself in the same sorts of situations, you're going to keep getting the same sorts of results. They say it's insane. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. What we have to be careful though is what we call like self-fulfilling prophecies. When you start speaking and thinking something so much, you basically make it happen in one way, shape or form. Whether this is a lot about how people self-sabotage themselves, but that's a lesson and a video for another day. But let's see what she's going to say.
So I got out and I went into the Walmart and we left, and somebody had advised to go to Starbucks and charge the batteries up. We did that. We did all of that. Well, when I got to the gas station, my entire purse was gone. Everything. My entire purse was gone. All of my identity, credit card, debit card, everything was gone. And I was all the way in New Mexico with nothing. So I'm back in Texas. I had to come back to Texas, and it just was bad, because my son literally had to come up there to bring me money, because I didn't have an ID to get money from anywhere. He couldn't wire me money. Nobody could wire me money. They had to literally drive 9 hours to bring money to me.
Well, so look, a bit of a underwhelming punchline, if you want to put it like that, but still, like, people, it's a pain when you lose your purse and all that kind of stuff. You lose your identity. But guys, it doesn't change the fact, like what I said previously, I'm going to say it again. If you keep doing the wrong stuff, you are going to get the wrong results. There's no way around this. This is how God has set up and designed the universe that we live in, right? He says from the beginning of the Bible, Genesis 9, seed time and harvest is going to remain until the end of time. That basically means what you sow is what you reap. So it's better for you to sow good seeds, wise seeds, so you can reap good seeds, wise seeds, on the back end, as many as possible. And the reverse is true. If you sow negative, if you sow dead, if you sow foolish seeds, it's only a matter of time before that sprouts out into a foolish tree and you're eating foolish fruit. So this is just another example, guys, what this older woman is telling us. Be better. Like, it's not going to change. If you keep doing the same stuff, which you don't like the results of what's happening, nothing's going to change in regards to what you receive unless you go back to the start, the beginning of the assembly line. What settings are you putting on that assembly line? What actions are you taking at the start of the conveyor belt to produce the result, the end product at the end of the conveyor belt? It's really much in your hands on so many different levels. If she didn't go that way, well, that wouldn't be another thing on her list, which she can say, well, you know what, every single time I go west. So guys, don't forget to like it, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. And as always, don't forget to react righteously. God bless.